Okay, we are live. All right, YouTube, help us out here because we seem to have a sticky push-to-talk thing, and I'm not sure just exactly why that is. But we are getting weird push-to-talk stuff going on. Well, let me kill that audio. All right. Grab that remote right there, and let's kill that volume just in case there is any. All right. Okay, so there's me. All right. Yeah, there's a bit of a glare.
I told you.
Yeah, that's not better.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Well. Okay.
Now, the last time I used this, it wasn't working that great. They said I was cutting in and out.
Yeah, I think if you work it from the middle, it's fine. But if you work it from a corner, it'll cut in and out. Okay, we're 10 seconds late.
What's new?
Right. Yeah.
Shall we make it 30?
I'm good with that. If you want to stall for 12 more seconds.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Maybe I do.
I don't see why not. Maybe we're on the air and you don't even realize it.
Well, that has been going on tonight.
That has been going on tonight.
All right. Good evening, friends, and welcome to the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. I will be working off the Pine Log repeater tonight, but we will be networked in with Somerville, Sassafras, Lookout Mountain, Jersey, Madison, Ball Ground, Statham, Crawford, McDonough, Columbus, Noonan, Moreland, Zebulon, and VoIP. Tonight, our RF coverage area will be in excess of 31,000 square miles. This net takes place every Thursday evening, now at 7:30. I would like to thank everyone who has made North Georgia GMRS the most expansive and active GMRS network in the country. Your net control tonight is Atlanta 947 and Atlanta 946.
Hey, everybody.
Justin and Julie, WQIR 514. We are located in Woodstock, Georgia. On the net, you can talk about your day's activities, radio equipment, or anything you think we would like to know. This is a family-based network, so we would encourage you to get your family involved. Once the floor is open, it is permissible to address the other members by the name, by their name or technical unit number, right?
Yeah, usually.
The use of your FCC call sign is only required when you sign in and sign out of the net. When signing in, please speak slowly and clearly as you give your technical unit number, call sign, name, and location. At this time, I will take check-ins. Any VoIP check-ins, please call Net Control now.
This is 253 WQNV 274, Donald from PCB, Florida.
Ah, Panama City Beach.
Ah. Hi, Penny. Net Control is acknowledging Atlanta 253, Donald in Panama City Beach. With that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to any visiting transient licensed GMRS operators, any new members of the North Georgia GMRS network, or youth members 18 and under. Again, this is any GMRS operator who is not a North Georgia GMRS member, but who is in the area and would like to check in, or any new members to the group, as well as any youth members 18 and under. Please call Net Control now.
This is Atlanta 136, WRCR 229. Aiden, Tucker, Georgia, checking in out tonight, guys, but I'll be listening.
WRHY 406, Bob operating portable on the shores of Lake Alatoona.
I did not get his.
Bob Portable on the shore of Alatoona. We'll have to come back and get his. I think he's a guest.
Net Control is acknowledging Atlanta 136, Aiden in Tucker. Aiden, I show you is in and out. Thank you for checking in with us this evening. We also had Bob, who was portable off the shores of Lake Alatoona. Bob, if you would, bring back your call sign, please.
RHY 406, WRHY 406, over.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Bob. I've got WRHY 406. Thank you so much for checking in with us this evening. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on to Pine Log check-ins. Any member wishing to check in through Pine Log, please call Net Control now.
This is Atlanta 299, WRJE 398, Stephen Roswell.
This is Atlanta 172, WRH Douglas 610, Greg from Bremen.
Net Control is acknowledging Atlanta 299, Steve in Roswell, and Atlanta 172, Greg in Bremen. All right, I'll open it up to all other repeater check-ins. Any repeater anywhere, please call Net Control now. I didn't get that. Was that John?
Might have been.
Control. This is WRAP 241, Atlanta 403, Bobby in White County.
Good afternoon, Net Control. This is WRS 961, Atlanta 46, checking in and out.
McDonough 22, WRC 52. This is Tim in Stockbridge checking in, and I will try to stick around, but I may have to skip out. So just letting you know. Good evening, everyone.
Who was that?
It was nothing.
Okay. Net Control is going to take a break right there. There was one station that came in that I did not get clearly, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the names that I did get. If you don't hear your name, please bring it back to me. So I have Atlanta 403, Bobby in White County, Atlanta 46, Mike in Loganville, And McDonough 22, Tim in Stockbridge. Again, if you didn't hear your name, if you would, please bring that back to me. Net control standing by.
WRDT 831, Jim, northbound I-75.
I still don't know who it is. That was rough.
Yeah.
Hey, Jim, if you would, please bring back your technical unit number again.
Or call sign.
Or your call sign, either one. We had a lot of static, so let's try that one more time.
I think he said he was on I-75.
45, WRDT 831.
45?
WR, was it AT?
I don't know.
All right.
You can't get a good read. Hey, anybody out there got a good read on that? Because Justin and I are struggling over here.
Where's Flip at? He usually saves the day for us.
Net control, it sounded like he said Atlanta 145, checking in and checking out.
Thank you for that, Bobby. So I've got Atlanta 145, Jim. Sounds like you're portable on northbound I-75. So, Jim, is that correct?
Roger that, Atlanta 145, it's Jim.
Well, we got him that time. Okay.
You came in good that time. Thank you for that, Jim, and thank you for saving us, Bobby. All right. That's all I've got so far. Is there any other check-ins, any repeater anywhere? Please call Net Control now.
This is Atlanta 295, WRFN 658. Scott from Dallas, good evening. This is Atlanta 780, WQEB 439, Houston and Austell.
Net Control is acknowledging Atlanta 295, Scott in Dallas, as well as Atlanta 780, Houston in Austell. Thank you, everyone, for checking in with us this evening. It looks like we're going to have a light night so far. So with that, Justin, do you want to take over with the
You going to bail out already?
Informal comments and the question of the day. So what is your question of the day?
Oh, I forget. What was it?
What got you interested in radio?
Why and when did you develop an interest in radio?
Why and when?
Why
there
and
you
when?
go, guys. Why and when? With that, I'm going to go ahead and duck out, everyone. I have things to get ready for tomorrow. And so, good night, everyone. WQIR 514, Atlanta 947, clear.
All right. Good night.
Good night.
Okay. So, I'm going to take over here. Let me mute that. The wrong one. There we go. All right. Okay, so 947 is out of here, and you're stuck with me for the evening. So let's see where we're at. We'll go through and call for check-ins again here after bit, but for the moment, I'm going to go ahead and flip to this screen, and we're going to go up to Atlanta 253, Donald in Waleska. Donald, what brought you into what fostered your interest in radio, and when did you become involved? I'm going to let you talk here for a moment while I move into the other chair and put on the other headphones. So, Donald, take it away for a minute.
If you can hear me, because I got music in the background, I'm going to break for a second. Dad's always been in ham radio, and he thought
that we should get into the GMRS,
Check 1 2.
and that's how I got into it.
Well, that's good stuff. This sounds like I might be a little bit too loud here. That's good stuff, Donald. Your dad's always been involved in ham radio, and he thought GMRS would be a good way for you to participate. I think that was an excellent idea. So how long have you been involved in GMRS radio, Donald? When did you start?
I can't even remember when we got our license.
All right. Well, we're glad to have you as a part of the North Georgia GMRS family, and we appreciate your weekly participation in the net. And so GMRS is a good fit for you and your dad, and I know that he also enjoys time on the amateur radio side of things too. So that's good stuff. All right, Donald. Well, thank you for that. I'm going to move next to Tucker. Aiden in Tucker, Atlanta 136. Aiden is in and out with us tonight again this week. Aiden, glad you were able to check in, and we look forward to hearing from you again very soon. Real quick here, I'm going to break, and I'm going to ask Atlanta 780 to come back with an audio check. I just want to be sure I'm not overmodulating.
Net control 780. No, sir. You sound great.
All right. For whatever reason, the audio is particularly hot in the headphones tonight, and I see it moving on the VU meter a little harder than it usually does, so I just wanted to double check. Appreciate that. Next on my list, I have WRHY 406 Bob on the shores of Lake Allatoona. Bob, are you a new GMRS user, and what and when did you become involved in radio?
My goodness, it was actually a beautiful evening on Lake Allatoona. So I've been a ham operator since 1973, and like probably a number of old-timers, I kind of was out of the hobby for a while when we had our 4 young kids at home, and I didn't have the time or the money. But I picked it up, I don't know, 10 years ago. My wife one day said, "Honey, you need a hobby," which is code for saying, get out of here.
Uh-huh.
And so I thought, hobby, what? I know. And so I got back into ham radio, and the GMRS interest just came a couple months ago with 2 of my now adult children saying, "Hey, Dad, maybe we ought to have like a radio alternative to cell phone, right?" And so we just started experimenting, and there you have it.
Excellent stuff. Yes, and GMRS is a great way to connect family, particularly family that are not hams, and so that's fantastic. And I hear a number of our users who are engaging in with their adult children or spouses on the air throughout the day, and that's perfect. That's exactly what we want to see happen, and we'd love to hear them come on the air with you at some point and check in one evening. If you can spark their interests in that direction, that would be fantastic. But we love Lake Allatoona. We've spent many evenings out on the lake, and we've been off the water for a little while now with a little trouble with our boat. But we'd very much like to get back out there and I have a story about one evening that we were on the lake. We had just gotten off of work, and we had picked up some carry-out food and went straight to the lake and put the boat in, and we were out motoring around, and this boat kind of eased towards us, and it had a blue and a red light on it, but it did not look like a DNR boat at all. It looked like just an ordinary private boat that somebody put a red light and a blue light on, and it was pretty sketchy. And I thought, I don't know who this is that's approaching us, but we are definitely not going to stop, and they are definitely not going to board the boat. And turns out that they were a part of the film crew for the TV show, the Netflix series Ozark, and they were filming on the lake that evening. And they came up close enough to us within shouting distance, and they said, "Hey, we want you to be aware that in about 5 minutes there's going to be a very high-speed stunt boat coming and operating right through this area." And I kind of expected him to say, to pull off to the side and wait, or to move out of the way, or we don't want you in the shot or anything like that. But he said, if you just keep on like you're doing, you'll be fine. Just try to stay out of the middle, because that's where the stunt boat's going to be. And that was kind of exciting and kind of interesting and fun. And we never did see the boat. We motored on, and that was that. But very much enjoy the lake. So glad to have you with us, Bob, and we look forward to hearing more. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 299, Steve in Roswell. Steve, what sparked your interest, and how did you and why did you get involved in GMRS radio?
Well, it's really hard to say. I'm a recently retired electrical engineer. I've always had some interest in radio, but never really been that involved in it. And, with all this idle time during the COVID thing, I thought it might be something to try to do. So I researched it and got my FRN number and GMRS license, and also have studied and become a ham extra last week, which is pretty good, I guess, even though I have no HF equipment. But anyway, I enjoy the GMRS. What little time I've really had to spend on it, I'm putting together some Kenwood radios for some friends of mine who are going to be future members, I think. And actually, this radio here that I'm talking on is one of them for a guy, I think, who just recently joined Jim, and I don't think he has his tactical ID yet. But anyway, that's my story for now.
All right. Well, it's a great hobby to get into, radio as a retiree. I can't wait until I have that excuse to spend more time on radio. But I've got about a dozen years ahead of me before I'll be able to do that. But glad to have you in here, and that's one of the ways to get into it. A way to occupy your time as a retiree, and with an electrical engineering background, I suppose there's a kind of a natural fit, tinkering with radios and electronics and that sort of thing. So, like I said, glad to have you in here, and we look forward to hearing more from you as we go. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 172, Greg in Bremen. Greg, why did you get involved in radio, and how long have you been here?
Well, radio, since I was a child, my father was a watchmaker, and he was interested in time, so he bought me a shortwave receiver so I could pick up Greenwich Means Time. Wherever that came from, I don't know. But he gave it the time, and over the years I played around with CB, got into 10 meter, and I gave up on kind of all that and went into law enforcement. Well, there we depended on radio for our lives and other people's lives, and I've retired, picked up a hunting GMRS radio, started hearing all y'all on there. Well, I got hooked over.
Well, I hear that, and it's kind of funny you would say that you heard us on here and you got hooked, because that's 947's story. Shortly after I got involved in the radio, we would spend our evenings, and back in those days, the net was 5 nights a week. It was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 8 o'clock, just like clockwork. And I would check into the net several times a week, and usually at that time of the evening, we would be in the summertime. We would be in the driveway or in front yard, tossing the ball for the dog and just playing with the dogs and hanging out and enjoying the evening air. And I would have the radio with me, and I would check into the net. And after a week or 2 weeks or maybe 3 weeks, I don't remember, of me checking in somewhat regularly, Julie started checking in, and after, I don't know, 3 or 4 times of her checking in, she asked the net controller, so how do I get your job? And boy, you couldn't give it to her fast enough. So that was a Bill Holliday, Atlanta 36, used to be our net controller in those days. And we do still hear from him from time to time. We might even hear from him tonight. But that is Julie's story, as how she got involved in GMRS radio, and from there she continued her interest in her studies and is now a general class ham. Well, thank you for that, Greg. I appreciate that story, and fascinating that you used Greenwich Mean Time to set the watches, and I suppose that would be a good way to measure the accuracy of the watch from day to day, if they're gaining time or losing time, and maybe make adjustments from there. So neat stuff. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 145. Jim was northbound on 75. Jim, are you still with us? And hopefully we've got a better copy on you now.
Yes, Atlanta 145. They should have a better copy now. I'm still on Pine Log, but now I'm just north of Woodstock.
Yeah, much better copy, Jim. So how did you get involved in radio, and when?
Probably back in 2006. I was actually doing some storm response down in Miami at the time. I was living in Florida and got down there after a storm, and like it was Wilma, no communications with anybody anywhere, and figured out there's got to be a better way, and that got my interest in ham radio, so I got my amateur ticket in 2006, and then moved up here in 14 and started looking at the GMRS network up here for some
Yeah, we heard you say that you moved up here in 14 and started looking at the GMRS network, and then I think the timeout timer got you.
It may have. Jumped on the GMRS network up here. My wife's also a ham operator, so we wanted an alternate means for us to link back up, and then major emergency in this footprint coverage up here looked good to us, so we both got our GMRS rigs.
Fantastic. And yes, I think that we have a wonderful infrastructure in this network, with some pretty incredible backup capacity if things do get rough. So both the Pine Log and the Sassafras repeaters have very, very nice redundant backup power. So they should stand up for a long time if we have an issue with commercial power. And as far as the greater network coverage, we've got solar power, I think, on Thomaston, so it should stand up for whatever weather comes its way. We should be able to still operate off of that. And we've got a mix of battery backup and generator backup on some, but not all, of the remaining repeaters. So we do hope to be able to provide reliable communications in the event of adversity. So excellent choice, and I think that this network will serve you and your wife quite well. So hopefully one of these days we'll get her to check in as well. We'd love to hear her on the air. Thank you for that, Jim. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 403. Bobby in White County, Georgia. And Bobby, when did you get interested in radio, and why?
Well, I'll tell you, Mr. 946, it's kind of been in my blood ever since my dad was in the Army at the tail end of Korea, and he ran the TV and radio station just outside of Seoul on the mountain there. And in the 60s and 70s, playing with the little walkie-talkies, and and then by the 80s, after high school, we kind of got into the CB thing, which lasted for a while, and then I kind of just let it slide till I moved down here to Georgia and kind of got a little bit back into the CB thing, and then one CERT group, Atlanta 545, had these little Bofangy radios and said, yeah, there's this thing called GMRS, and it's local, and they got all these repeaters, and I guess that was about 4 years ago, and I got into it, and yeah, now it's like a major addiction. I got more radios than I possibly know what to do with, but hey, yeah, it's fun. So that's my story kind of in a nutshell, the short version.
In a nutshell, not in a nut house. Hard to tell the difference sometimes, but there is a distinction. I'm just not sure exactly what that is. But that's interesting that your dad was in the Army and running, was it television and radio? I'm guessing that was some kind of a service for the Army. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, correct. It was he was in at the tail end of the war. All the action and combat had pretty much stopped. And he was running the station on top of the mountain above Seoul that took care of the Army, the Armed Services network at the time. And it was radio and television, I guess basic television, black and white back then. And yeah, they had an outpost on the mountain up there, just above Seoul, and yeah, they ran the TV, short TV programs, and the radio for the Army and stuff there, and yeah, he loved it and always talked about it, and yeah, it's kind of just in my blood. Yeah, he had a little sideline thing of repairing TVs and radios. When I was a little kid, I used to follow him around and kind of got into it. And then, you know, like I said, yeah, with the little walkie-talkies. And we started messing with it after high school in all our cars and let it drop. And then I got up here to Georgia and kind of picked it up with a big-time passion again. So I think it's fun. I think it's great. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And, yeah, I just wish I could spend a little more money on it. But, yeah, what are you going to do? And eventually I'll get my ham ticket.
Good stuff. All right. Well, that's a fascinating story about your introduction into radio through your dad's experience in the Army, and that's neat stuff. I tried to get involved in a little radio and television in my youth, but I just couldn't seem to work out the right connections, and eventually found other sources of entertainment. But in any case, that's cool stuff. Well, Bobby, we're glad to have you in the group, and appreciate your assistance this evening with the live stream issues. So far, that seems to be running well, but we'll knock on a little wood there and make sure that continues. So we're coming up on 8 o'clock, and some of our regulars are thinking, hey, the net's going to start at 8, and I'm going to jump in here and check in. Well, hang on here just a little bit, you guys. We're going to ask for additional check-ins after these next 4. So next on my list, I have Atlanta 46, Mike in Loganville. Mike, when did you become interested in radio, and why?
Well, he's going to be checking in here after we finish the next 4. Back then in the day, I had an old backpack and a CB radio somebody handed me, and I tied 2 lantern batteries together to make 12 volts and threw it in a backpack and had an antenna sticking out of the back of it. And I've been playing with radios, and I loved walkie-talkies growing up, and, you know, anything that was wireless communications I thought was very neat. So earlier this year, we were going to take a ham test together. We've been studying together, but then because of the COVID and everything else, they closed all the testing sites. So I seen online that I could get GMRS without taking a test. I just paid a fee, and you're instantly available to use it. So me and him got some radios and got our GMRS licenses together, and here we are now.
Oh, very, very nice. Yes, and the GMRS has been an option for a lot of people during this COVID pandemic, an opportunity to get on the air without the challenges that we face. I mean, the testing for ham radio, the test in and of itself can be intimidating to some, but GMRS radio is a great alternative. But I tell you, the thing I love the most about GMRS radio is the family aspect. It's a great way that, with one license you can have an opportunity to communicate with spouses and children, adult and young children, and we're also finding that it's a great avenue for some youth to be able to get involved with the radio hobby. So with that in mind, that's good stuff. Glad that you were able to get on with our network, and we're glad to have you. And I didn't catch your friend's name. I think I recall this conversation before when you first came on to the network. If I'm correct, it's because you and your buddy both work in the automotive industry. Maybe even at the same dealership, but I'm not entirely sure. Am I headed in the right direction, Mike?
We don't work together, but the first day I met him was friends ever since then. So I've known him for pretty much my entire life that I can remember. So. But I'm in the automotive industry. I work for a Honda dealership in Snellville, Georgia. But he's not. He does suspension control. He's gonna try and check in a little bit later too. I know he's WRFS 990. I forget that number off the top of my head.
All right. Well, I'll try to listen out for that, and hopefully we'll get him in here in just a little bit. Next on my list, I have McDonough22, Tim in Stockbridge. Tim's a busy guy, but sometimes he has time to hang out with us. Tim, are you there? And how did you get involved in radio, and when, and why, and where, and for how long?
Question.
McDonough22, stand by. Station with a question. Identify, and what's your question?
WRHY 406 speech protocol.
That's all right. That's all right. We have rules, and we generally just ignore most of them. So go ahead with your question.
Question. Sorry, I was just poking fun at you having so many questions.
All right. Well, I think I'm talking to maybe the wrong Tim. I was looking for McDonough22, Tim in Stockbridge, but go ahead and identify one more time, and I'll put it in a log here, and we'll just go ahead and take your comments. We'll come back to Tim here in just a moment.
This is Bob, WRHY 406.
Oh, okay, Bob. I've already got you in a log. All right, then. I'm beginning to put this together in my head now. All right. So that all works. Well, yes, there's lots of questions. I tend to, it's kind of how I make this thing work. So, all right, McDonough22, Tim in Stockbridge. Tim, are you with us, or did you have to step away? We don't have you marked in and out, but I can change that. Okay, we're going to go ahead and mark McDonough22 as in and out. Tim, if you're going to check back in at some point along the way, you're more than welcome to. We'd love to hear from you. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and move on. Next on my list is Atlanta 295, Scott in Dallas. Scott, when did you become involved with the radio? Why? And how long do you plan to stick around?
Well, I got interested 70s. The neighbor was a ham radio operator, and I recall him making a phone patch through the ham radio and dialing the phone, having a phone conversation with the radio, and that just intrigued me. Dad was a lifelong truck driver, so we always had CBs, and I have always, as a young kid, have had a scanner in the house. Get interested in GMRS earlier this year with the COVID thing, and got my license for that. Found out about North Georgia GMRS, and as of June, I am a amateur licensed ham radio operator working on studying for my general. So I plan to stick into it for quite some time to come now. Back to the net.
Fantastic. Well, it's great to have you on the North Georgia GMRS network. We're glad to have you here, and I just put my notes for you in somebody else's place. So let me see if I can cut and paste a correction to that. There we go. So your dad was a truck driver and had CBs for as long as you can remember. I also was a truck driver, and I've still got a couple of my CBs. They haven't seen power in a couple of decades. But I used to run 2 CB radios in the truck. Used to have the one that would monitor the road channel, and another one that I would use to converse with people. And of course, the Ranger was a little bit of a out of band radio. And back in those days, we didn't go far enough out of band to bother anybody, but it happened. And yeah, all these years later, I've got those radios, but I'm just not compelled to put power to them or put an antenna on them, so they'll continue to sit in the closet, I guess. But always had a scanner running. That's something that I never really did. I did run a scanner in the truck for a little while. Ended up taking it out because it's not really legal to do in a truck, and I just figured that'd just give the inspectors a reason to dig deeper, and so I got rid of that. But the scanner for me has never really been of much of an interest, but I do see a lot of people are really into that, and they're scanning and listening to emergency services activities, and some folks have even got their scanner connected and linked into the internet. And I've found that you can go on the internet and you can listen to just about any scanner just about anywhere, and you can catch up on emergency services in cities all over the place. It's kind of fascinating. So that's a neat thing that people have done that allow people that don't have a scanner to enjoy that feature. Or if they're just in a bad radio area, they're down in a hole, or they're just too far out to be able to catch some of that traffic. It's a neat thing. So cool stuff. Glad to have you in here, Scott, and glad to have your wife along too. It was great meeting the two of you. And one of these days, I'm going to put that radio in service out in the Tiki Bar. There's a component to the Tiki Bar that is yet to be completed that is paramount to the way that radio is going to be installed. So I need to do that, and then I can install the radio, and we'll have GMRS out on the Tiki Bar. So looking forward to that here in the next coming weeks. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 780, Houston in Austell. Houston, why did you get involved in radio and when? Come on back.
Hi, good evening, Justin. Good evening to the rest of the net. Just think now that you've got your general license, you can use that out-of-band radio now, probably on 28 megahertz band. I got interested in radios, I guess, in the 1950s, late, when I hooked that string to that tin can. Yeah, in mine in a friend's house, and that was our first radio. But no, I really got interested, I guess. Well, I had CBs for many years after that, but when I joined the service, I spent about as much time in the radio room as I did in the mechanic shop. So I got in good with the ETs, and we enjoyed the radios pretty good bit. Now I've got GMRS and DMR and VHF, UHF, 220, HF. Yeah, all them other ones. But that's about my story.
No, all right. I'm trying to keep up with the notes here, and I got stuck after GMRS, DMR, UHF, VHF, and the whole alphabet. So I'm just going to start at A and let it end at Z, and I figure I'll have everything covered. But that's fascinating that you're able to spend time in the radio room there while you were in the service. I guess that wasn't your bit. You were in the mechanical side of things, but what a cool way to spend your free hours, being able to learn and explore, but not having the responsibilities or the obligations that come with it. So, I kind of did some of the similar stuff in my time on in the field on the railroad when I had the opportunity to hang out with the CETs and go to the microwave sites and do the monthlies and the quarterlies and the annuals on radios. I would go hang out with those guys and learned a lot. Not much of it is applicable to anything else that I do in life, but it was still fascinating stuff. So, excuse me. So that's good stuff, Houston. Glad to have you as part of the group, and I appreciate your comments this evening. Next on my list is Atlanta 26. I thought I had gotten to the end of my list, but somehow I have one more in here. So Atlanta 26, Flip in Druid Hills. Why did you become involved in radio and when?
Well, good evening, Justin, and you're sounding really excellent tonight. I think you may have turned up your mic a little bit. That really sounds great. So the short story is my father had a bunch of stereo gear in the mid-'70s, including an AM/FM tube receiver, vacuum tube, and because my mom didn't want it all out anywhere, she wanted it in a closet, he had to take the top off of it in order for it not to overheat. And I remember being about 10 years old and seeing that AM/FM receiver with those vacuum tubes just glowing, and I just was fascinated. And that really is the story. That's how I got interested. It really, I guess, blossomed in me an internal, insatiable desire to understand how things work. And through the years, I've really played around with radios all the time, but fairly recently with GMRS, and then you sending me the postcard. So that has really helped kick off another rejuvenated interest. So I appreciate that. This is Flip, Atlanta 26.
Excellent stuff. Yes, I tell you, vacuum tube technology is just such a cool thing. I've got he was our guest or our youth net controller for a short time. Tyler is a neighbor who has expressed an interest in building a guitar amplifier. He wants to build a tube amp, and I think that would be a fantastic thing. We've talked at length about building a cabinet and then building the amp and putting a speaker in it, and the grill cloth and the whole 9 yards. I think that would be a great project. And in fact, if he ever gets around to pulling the trigger on that project, I think I want to buy 2 kits and build a pair of them. I think I would like to have one as well. So that's one of those. Don't know if it'll happen or not, but it would be a cool thing to build a guitar amp, and of course it would be a tube amp, and that would be a neat exploration into the tube technology. So I know that in the audiophile world of hi-fi, that tube amps in some circles are highly sought after and can be a valuable thing to have or to acquire. And it can be kind of expensive. The transformers are a little bit pricey to buy. So that can be a little bit of an issue, and when it comes to just plain audio stuff, you can buy a lot of watts of audio power for just a few dollars these days, because those amplifier chips have just gotten so good and so inexpensive. I don't know that they're as good as a classic Class A amplifier, but they don't waste as much electricity as a Class A amplifier does either. So, but that's neat stuff. I remember too when I was a kid, we had a giant console TV. This thing was a massive piece of furniture, and I think it had a great big screen in it. I want to say it was 19 inches. It was huge. It was enormous. And that was the TV that the family watched. And you know, it was a vacuum tube TV, and I recall, I don't know, must have been 6 or 7 years old when the TV repairman was there and had the panel off of the back of the TV, and you could see all that stuff inside, and you could see the little red glowing tubes, and he had to take one out and put a new one in, and that made everything better again. So that is just a fascinating era of electronics and the things that could be done, and how reliable tubes are. They just seem to last for, you know, you would think that they would burn out, but they don't seem to. They just keep going. So neat stuff. All right, Flip. Well, that brings me to the end of the current list. So at this time, we're going to open up the floor for additional check-ins. Not comments yet, but any additional check-ins. Any repeater anywhere, including Zello or VoIP, please call Net Control now.
This is 29, Marty in Tyrone. WIQ 796. Good evening, Justin, and everybody that can hear me.
Is WRC 869, CW14, Steve in Athens. In and out, no traffic for the net. Good evening.
This is Atlanta 291 WQID. Good evening, checking in.
Polk County line. The next 4 WQD 787.
Okay, we had a double right there. I heard Atlanta 291. Station that was checking in at the same time or immediately after. I was not able to pick that up. But let me go back here and I'll identify what I do have. I do have CW15 David in Comer, Georgia. Thank you, David, for checking in. Glad to have you in here. We also have Noonan 29, Marty in Tyrone. And Marty, anyone that can't hear you, I would suggest you just don't even talk to them. If they can't hear you, then you've got really nothing to say to them. So, but we did hear you, and you are in the log, and we're looking forward to hearing more of your comments in just a bit. Next, I have CW14, Steve in Athens. Steve, I've got you in and out. And as I mentioned, I have Atlanta 291, Nick, typically in Ackworth. Nick, you got covered up there. So I'm going to show you in Ackworth, even if you are not. And I do have you in the log as in and out, but if that's not the case, when the time comes, you just chime right back in. If I did not call your name, I did not log you in. So anyone that I missed, please call Net Control now.
This is WQZD 787, Brandon, be in the Floyd, Polk County line area. WQZD 787, be in and out.
This is McDonough 28, Daniel from Jackson, WRJF 440.
All right, McDonough 28, Daniel in Jackson. Okay, so at this time, we'll go ahead and move back up to the top of our list, and we'll take additional check-ins here shortly. So at this point, we are at CW15, David in Comer. Now, David has an interesting history with North Georgia GMRS. David was our first North Georgia GMRS net control operator. So we have David to thank for this tradition of net control. And David, what was your original interest in radio, and why did you get involved, and when was that?
Old, so everybody knows I'm old. It was back in 1957. My dad he had a few friends that had old white face junks and other CBers, CB radios, and he brought one home that we put up there in what is it, Roy? Icon City, they call it. And I was much interested in that radio he put in the house, and the antenna out back. And believe it or not, I still got that antenna, and I'm still using it on the CB. But ever since then, I've had a radio. I've had a lot of CBs, and been into CBs, and ran quite a bit of power. You know, in the days that the FCC didn't really care. Ran a whole lot, anyway. All my antennas, 20,000 camera matches on it. I made all my antennas. So I've really enjoyed the CB part of it. Let it free. I got into GMRS and wow, man, that's right there. So I got into GMRS and I didn't include to let everybody get together. So I started North Georgia GMRS radio 5 years ago, and thanks to the consultants like yourself, we've had really kept it going strong. And quite a compliment to the consultants we have. I just hope it keeps on going.
Well, that's good stuff, David. Had a tough copy on you, and I'm betting a lot of people were unable to hear that, but I think I got bits and pieces of it, and then maybe I'm able to put it together. So you've been involved in CB for a very long time, and it sounds like maybe your family brought you into CB, and one of the things that you've enjoyed is making your own antennas, and you have a number of antennas from even back in the day that are still in service, and I know that you've got a tower set up over there, and I also know that you've in the last year or so become a ham, and have been able to participate in amateur radio as well. And as I said before, David is our original North Georgia GMRS net controller, so we have a lot to thank him for starting this tradition and giving us this opportunity here. So, David, thank you for that. If I got any of it wrong, I'm sorry, but it was really tough to hear a lot of that. So I hope that I recapped that somewhat accurately. Have a great evening, David. Thank you again for checking in with us. Next on the list, I have, let's see, where's my list? I have Noonan29, Marty in Tyrone. Marty, why did you get involved in radio and when?
Well, that's a long story, but I'll give the Cliff Notes version of it here. Way back in the early days of Marconi and long wires and all that. Actually, it was in the 70s, in my high school electronics class, we were studying vacuum tubes. I was on the tail end of vacuum tubes and the beginning of integrated circuitry. Had an interest in the 11-meter band at the time, which was also hugely popular. And I was in Florida, so you can only imagine what that was at the time. It was hard to get a word in edgewise on any of the TV channels down there. Fast forward, I got tired of that and met a fellow who became my Elmer, a blind fellow whose wife was in a wheelchair as well, a most interesting couple. And he administered my novice test, and the rest is history. That was in 1976. So, needless to say, reset here. It's something that becomes a part of your life, just like the music. I'd love to hear you projects as well. I've got several of them myself. I've been playing music for 45 years, so that's my other passion as well. But the radio stuff has just gone up and down over the years, and now we're kind of in an upswing. It's the ultimate tool for social distancing. We've been at it since the beginning. With that said, I'm in it for life. Give me the life member badge. WIC 796, unit 29, back to that.
Another lifer. That's excellent. Yes, this is a captivating hobby, radio in general, and there are so many opportunities, especially once you get into the amateur side of radio. But even right here in GMRS, there's no end to what we can do with regard to, we've had fox hunts, we've had balloon launches, and we've had a number of social gatherings which we will resume at some point. I just don't know what that point looks like at this point in time, but we definitely will be gathering at some point. And that being said, there is nothing that prevents anyone in the North Georgia group from organizing a gathering of sorts. If you would like to invite people to come to a restaurant or a park or lake or whatever venue you can find, and there are people that are willing to participate in that. There's no objection to that whatsoever. So we do encourage people to get together for lunch, or to get together and hang out, or to get together and talk radio. We very much would like to see that. We're just as an official function, we don't have anything available in the near future. So. But yeah, social distancing is definitely available in radio. And yeah, I don't know if that tube amp project is going to come to be or not, but like I say, if he decides to build one, I think I'll probably purchase 2 kits so that we can each have one when it's done. We'll build a matching pair, and I think that'll be neat, especially 10, 20 years down the road, to know that there's another one out there just like this one. So that'll be kind of a fun feature in a homemade, handmade project like that. Next on my list, I have CW14, Steve in Athens. Steve is in and out tonight with no traffic, but Steve, we're glad to have you in the log and as a listener of the North Georgia GMRS net. It's great to have you in here. And next on my list, I have Atlanta 291, Nick in Ackworth. I believe Nick was in and out, but I have a hard time copying him. I've got you in the log as in and out, and if that's not the case, you can just chime in and let me know. But for now, I'm going to move right on past and go to McDonough 28, Daniel in Jackson. Daniel, how you doing this evening? And why are you interested in radio, and when did you become involved?
Not really, but I used to watch my dad talk to instructors and TV, radio, and then later on down the road, I met my girlfriend, met her dad, and then he introduced me into GMRS, and that's when I really got into it.
So you were introduced into the GMRS world through a friend. That's a great way of getting involved, and I hear you on the air from time to time, and it's great to hear you out there. But that's cool stuff. So you're relatively new in the GMRS world, but we've heard you check in here a number of times, and it's great to hear from you. Have you been able to share GMRS with your girlfriend or with any other of your friends, or are you kind of alone down there in that world?
Well, I'm trying to convince my girlfriend to do it with me, but I'm having a hard time to, because she's kind of scared to talk on GMRS stuff. But slowly but surely, she's leaning towards doing it, so that's great.
Yeah, well, that's good stuff, and I would just, if she's listening, I would just encourage her to know that you don't have to worry about the rules. Um, you know, in ham radio, you have a sort of a pattern of speech that's important that you follow, and if you don't follow it, people may not come back and talk to you at all, or they may come back and give you grief. Here in GMRS, the only thing that is really required is the FCC requirement that you identify your transmission. So, as long as you throw a call sign out every 10 minutes or so, is it 10 minutes or 15? I think it's 15 in GMRS and 10 minutes in ham. If you throw your call sign out through the course of conversation every so often, that's really all that's required. There's no specific lingo. There's no. You don't have to say Roger, copy, over. You can just have a casual conversation like two kids talking on walkie-talkies, and that's perfectly acceptable in GMRS radio. It's an extension of the family radio service, and in fact, we overlap many of those frequencies. So it's not uncommon to hear that kind of traffic in GMRS, and we encourage it. So it's one of the things that I love about this format is that it's very loose and very easy and very casual, and we try to keep it that way. Thank you for that, Daniel, and that brings me to the end of my list of check-ins tonight. We are currently at 19. Are there any additional users wishing to check into North Georgia GMRS Regional Net? Please call Net Control now.
This is and Minor Falls, Georgia. Currently mobile and satisfied. Good evening, Justin and Annette.
This is Noonan 25, Joe, and by relay Noonan 26, Mary Catherine. We are WRCL 957 in Fayetteville, Georgia. Hello, Justin and the net.
Atlanta 91 WQXN 735, Apostle from Marietta Mobile, and checking in and checking out. Good evening, everybody.
Okay, had a bit of a double going on through part of that, but I do have Atlanta 57, Andrew in Holly Springs. Andrew, thank you for checking in with us tonight. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 438, Garrett in Monument Falls. Garrett, thank you for checking in. And I also have Noonan 25 and Noonan 26, Joe and Mary Catherine in Fayetteville. Thank you, Joe, for checking in with us tonight. We're looking forward to hearing from you. And I have Atlanta 91, Alfonso in Marietta, checking in and out. It's great to hear from you, Alfonso. I hope all is well, and we'll catch up with you real soon. So with that, I'm going to go to the top of my short list here and go to Atlanta 57, Andrew in Holly Springs. Andrew, why did you get involved in radio and when?
Good evening, Justin and everyone on the net. Let's see why. Got involved with scanners, really, in the very beginning, and thought, hey, I'm listening. Why can't I hit a PTT button? So that's kind of what got me driven on that, and, of course, learned very quickly that once you hit that PTT button, the world changes, and what you have to have set up and the way your equipment has to be and the components used and all of that, and that turned out to be a lot of fun. And let's see, when did I get involved? That would have been 2017, I think, so I'm still relatively new myself. I think I got my GMRS in 2017 and then my ham in 2018. And I think that's it. And, hey, here we are.
Indeed, here we are. And, yes, the scanners are cool, but, yeah, I never really fell into that interest with scanners. I recognize their value and acknowledge that they do provide an exciting opportunity to kind of listen in on the excitement of the community, with emergency services and such, and other things that you can pick up with a scanner. One of the things back in my trucking days, the whole reason that I got a scanner was because there was one particular delivery that I very often would make, and it would involve an overnight, very near an airport, almost at the end of the runway, and kind of off to the side a little bit. So I would spend my night waiting for the place to open up to make my delivery, and so one time I decided I'm going to get a scanner and see if I can listen to the air traffic as those guys are coming and going, and just find out a little bit about what's going on with that. And so I ran that scanner in a truck for probably, I don't know, maybe 2 years. And then in conversation along the way, I found out that I probably always really knew, but I never really thought about it. But scanners are illegal in a truck in most states, and in several of the states that I operate in, and they are flat out illegal to have in a truck. Yeah, and so I thought, well, I don't get to the airport that often anymore, and I'm just going to go ahead and pull it out and leave it alone. But that was fun to be able to use that to find those air traffic control frequencies and listen in on that. Had nothing better to do. No place to go get a bite to eat or hang out or anything. It was just a matter of, sitting there at the end of that runway until 10 o'clock the next morning when the place opened up and would take my delivery. But good stuff. Thank you for that, Andrew, and glad to have you as a part of the North Georgia GMRS network, and looking forward to hearing more from you as we go. And let's see, why were they illegal in a truck? I think that Virginia is the state where they first became illegal, and for the same reason that radar detectors are illegal in a truck, because they are specifically used in trucks to listen to police traffic and find the speed traps. So I think there's no better justification for the law than that. But they were also, I believe, Pennsylvania, which is a state that I ran in a heck of a lot back in those days, had a scanner law. And Ohio probably did too. Everything was illegal on Ohio back in those days, so I would just assume that it was there as well. So, and I ran into the New England states a lot. And I don't know state by state what the laws were, but you can't get to New England from Indiana without going through Pennsylvania and Ohio. So, well, you can, but you're not gonna. So, yeah, it was a fun thing to have, but it didn't last very long for me. But now that the internet is available on everybody's phone, you could listen to that air traffic control. I'm sure you could find a website with a scanner feed for any airport, anywhere, anytime, and just monitor that. All right. Let me move that so I can see. Okay, that looks right. I thought I had a problem here. Next on my list, I have Atlanta 438 Garrett in Monument Falls. Garrett, why did you become interested in radio, and when?
Yeah, it probably came this past winter. We had a couple ice storms, and we lost cellular service, and when you can't call the power company or get them out here, it's quite aggravating. So we made a conscientious decision that we need some sort of short or semi-long infrastructure in place to be able to communicate for reasons like that, and also too it helps us get stay in contact with our family and our community up here. So for that reason, we went ahead and put in repeater and also joined the GMRS network, and it's been fully fulfilling. And I've been in GMRS now, I think around 5 or 6 months. So yeah, it's definitely cool, and I like the fact that UHF actually works great in my environment, better so than VHF does. So, even the better, and the rewards, like Andrew was saying, you get to perfect or tweak or get SWR and fine-tune your equipment, and, there is a satisfaction of, of reward there associated with that. Back to you. I guess that's all I have to say about that.
All right. Yes, and we know, I mean, obviously, because we're all doing it, but we know that there's a lot of satisfaction that comes from setting up an antenna and tweaking and adjusting and, change out the coax for a better coax and change out the mount for a better mount and, try this antenna and try that antenna. And, it's all just a part of the art and part of the fun and part of the expense of radio. But I suppose losing cellular communications and not having a landline, as most of us do not anymore, is kind of interesting. We had a neighbor needed our help with an issue late one evening and had difficulty reaching us on our landline. We haven't had a landline for 5 years, maybe 6, 7. I don't know. It's been a long time. But that's the number they had recorded for us, was a landline number. And after several attempts of calling us on a landline and no answer, she finally tried calling us on the cell phone and got an immediate answer. So, but yeah, and I believe it was T-Mobile had a nationwide outage on their cellular service here recently. Maybe it wasn't T-Mobile, but it was one of the bigger carriers, and it had a huge impact on communications. And yeah, we've become so dependent and reliable on these things that we take for granted, and we often neglect the idea that format of communications can be hacked, it can be disrupted, it could be, we've had major disasters in parts of the world where communications have been interrupted, and the only way to communicate, because of serious flooding and wind damage or earthquakes or etc., the only way to get communications in and out of a region or an island or an area was through ham radio. And amateur radio has definitely been an important part of communications in natural disasters and will continue to serve in that role. And GMRS can too on a limited basis. And that's why most of us are have got the GMRS radios, because it's a format where our spouses and our family can be involved without having to take a separate test for each individual. And that has a lot of value when you're just trying to set up an alternative communications network so that if something happens, you can reach your spouse or that you can reach your kids. And if the cellular network is down, we still have that function. So that's great stuff. I really appreciate your comments, and it's great to have you as part of the North Georgia GMRS Regional Net. With that, I'm going to go ahead and move on and see what our friends in Fayetteville are up to this evening. Noonan 25, Joe and Mary Catherine. Joe, why did you get involved in radio and when? All right, I wonder if he was in and out. Okay, I know that on any given Thursday evening, Joe has about 12 things going on, so we must be at least number 11, and he has multitasked his way into something else. Maybe he checked in and out and I missed it. That is entirely possible. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move on, and I'm going to show Joe as in and out in our log, along with Mary Catherine, who is still continuing her master's studies. So we will wish her the best in her studies, and move on next to Atlanta 9-1 Alfonso. in Marietta. Alfonso was also in and out with us this evening. Thank you, Alfonso, for taking the time to hang out with us, and we're glad to have you as a part of the net. And, well, that brings me to the end of my list. So at this time, I'm going to open up the floor for any questions, comments, or any late check-ins. Please call Net Control now.
Justin, I'm here in N25. Zello dropped out, and it keeps dropping.
Okay, Joe, understand Zello connectivity issues are persisting. I'm sorry about that. But we did hear your last comment, so if you want to try that again and tell us why you got involved in radio and when, that would be fantastic.
Well, you know me, I love to talk about radio, and I love to talk on the radio, and I like to listen to radio perhaps even more. I got started with radio building crystal radio kits from Radio Shack, and just thought it was magical that I could, hook wires up around my bedroom, annoy my little brother, and listen to these far-off distant stations. That led to interest in CB radio with my dad, whose handle was the Georgia Pollock. I was the Little Pollock back in the 70s when we let the network recycle. Yeah, I think Zello just doesn't like long transmissions. I noticed it dropped you, Justin, when you talked for a while. So anyway, was interested in CB radio and then got into scanners and shortwave radio listening that was not crystal radios, and really didn't get much into the talking part of it. Even in the Army, I had an RTO, a radio telephone operator. I was an officer, so I had an RTO assigned to me. Didn't really care about radio except what it could do for me. After 9/11, I took a keen interest in emergency communications, and that's when I got licensed in amateur radio. And then I ended up here in GMRS because of you and Julie. You had a cool-looking booth and looked like two fun people at the Atlanta Ham Fest a couple years ago, and I'm like, I want to be part of this cool group. So I kind of did it backwards. I did ham radio first and then GMRS, and I'm glad I did. You guys do a tremendous job, and we're happy to be part of it. Okay, now that I've put everybody to sleep, back over to you. This is Noonan 25.
Outstanding stuff. And yes, those old crystal radio kits, I do remember as a kid having a lot of difficulty getting one of those kits to work. And then finally discovering, I don't remember what it was. If it was polarity, it was polarity of something. I had something installed backwards. And when that was corrected, that thing came to life. And it was amazing how many different things that you could tune to. The issue that I had with the one that I built was that I had to keep my finger on that little bar to be able to stay tuned in on something. As soon as I would let go of it, it would move and I would lose it. So that, but it was still, nonetheless, it seemed like no matter what it was tuned to, it was picking up something. And it didn't seem to matter if it was local or if it was far, far, far away. And I remember just being amazed, and even my dad was pretty amazed at some of the radio stations that we could pull in from way far away. At one point, I recall he had an interest in hearing a particular station in the Dakotas because he lived there at one time, and we never could get that one to come in. I didn't know enough about antennas and how to set up an antenna to do a DX contact like that with a radio, but it'd be a fun thing to try now. I'd have to ask him what station that was and what frequency, or have to look it up and see if we could figure out what that is, and that'd be a neat thing to try to DX now. But yeah, that was a phase that I went through as a kid, but it didn't stick. There was too many other things to do, and so just kind of moved on. But good stuff. Hope Mary Catherine is doing well, and the studies are progressing and looking. Okay, sorry about that little interruption there. I had a little break in the live stream and needed to find my mouse and click a button. But I'm back now, so thank you for your comments, Steve. I appreciate that, and I may definitely look you up at some point. Roswell's not that far from here, so we might have to make one of those unofficial gatherings and explore the world of tube amplifiers. So I've had my hands on them before, and but I've never built one, so that would be a new thing for me. I would love the opportunity to take a chunk of aluminum and bend it and punch it and install the tube sockets and install the point-to-point wiring devices, the turrets, I guess they call that, and build the old school tube amp. So that's what I hope to be able to do at some point. So it'd be a neat project, I think, to undertake. Probably a good wintertime project. So let's see what Tyler wants to do when that time comes. Any additional comments? Any late check-ins? Please call Net Control now.
WRHY 406.
WRHY 406, Bob. Go ahead.
Sure, thanks. Hey, I'm just amazed at the full quality signal strength here on Lanier on the 625 machine, and I've been texting with my son Kevin, who's on an HT now in Lawrenceville. Just wanted to give a shout out to Kevin to see how he's doing. Go ahead.
Kevin in Lawrenceville. You think he's listening now? I didn't copy all of that, but I believe that's what you were getting at. Is that what you were suggesting?
Yeah, I've been texting him, and he's on the air now, listening. Wanted to do a quick radio check, see if he's also hitting the 625 machine adequately.
No, in Lawrenceville, he might have a better shot at the sassafras machine, but if he's out there, we'll go ahead and take a break and see if Kevin is able to make the contact. So Kevin, if you're listening, please call Net Control now. Okay, I think we heard Kevin make an attempt there. He was definitely hitting the repeater, but not well enough to get a signal through. So the repeater was seeing his tone, and it was opening up, but there was not enough signal behind that to bring him across. So he's going to have to either get to a better location or find some way to improve his signal. But hopefully he can do that and participate in next week's net. So appreciate you bringing that to our attention, Bob, and hopefully we'll get Kevin in here next week. And meanwhile, he might try the sassafras repeater and take a look at the repeater map that we have on our web page and see if there is something that might work from where he's located other than Pine Log. And then again, if you can get to Pine Log from there by improving his location or his signal strength or what have you, then we would love to have him in here as soon as he's able. So with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and let's see, where's that page at in my notes? I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. So tonight we had, well, let me find the right thing here to say, because I always say it backwards, and then when I go to read it, I read it wrong, and so, let me just try to do it the right way. This concludes the North Georgia Regional GMRS Net. We had a total of 24 check-ins, including 947 and myself. Net Control will be returning the repeater back to normal use. Everyone that signed in should sign out. Thank you for allowing me and 947 to be your Net Control this evening. This is Atlanta 946, WQIR 514, clear. Good night, everyone.
Atlanta 57, WQZC 882. I'll be clear and monitoring.